welcome back to the Chosen Show. I'm your host, Jonas Wood today, and we're back for another episode finally here. And I know it's been a while, I've been having a lot of work, and then a online class, and then vacations. I've been off a little bit here, but we're finally back, and for today's episode here, we are going to be going entirely on NFL news as we get into training camp time here, and a whole bunch of stuff is going on. And if you're wondering, the MLB trade deadline is literally tomorrow. Like, why are you talking about the MLB? Well, there's so much going on that I feel like I'm just going to do that in a separate video for tomorrow. So, I will be talking about all the MLB stuff soon. Don't worry about that. But for today, there's massive things going on in the NFL and MLB, and it's just not enough time to cover both. So, I'm going to split up in two. So, today we're going to do the more quicker NFL version here, then tomorrow we'll get into the whole full MLB trade deadline. Then the other thing of that too is, I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen tomorrow. There's a whole bunch of moving pieces right now, especially more players like Verlander and Bednar allegedly. Though I don't think Bednar's going to trade, but there was a lot of movement there on all those fronts that could possibly happen. So tomorrow being the trade deadline, it makes more sense to do it after that deadline passes at 4 o'clock, rather than do it right now. Well, the whole things have not played out completely yet. But yeah, we got a lot of NFL stuff to talk about here, and it's been a little interesting here so far. A lot of things going on. But first off, we're going to start off some recent NFL free agent signings by teams. There's two I want to talk about. The first one here was one by the Steelers themselves here. They recently, I think actually it was Sunday. I think Sunday is when they, actually no, it was Saturday. They played practice Sunday, but the Steelers signed linebacker Quan Alexander to a 1-year deal. We don't have the financial details of the contract as of yet, but I think it's a great move for the Steelers. The middle linebackers, I think, are the biggest question for that defense is how will they, respond? Because they have completely changed that whole position. The only middle linebacker from last year who is still there right now is Mark Robinson, who was a rookie last year. Now, granted, he did stand out very well, but they have massively changed that whole position and how things are going at that position. So it's very interesting to see how exactly that plays out. But Quan Alexander, thing to know is, if you're a Steelers fan, you are not familiar with him. I am familiar with him because I've watched decent bit of him for the 49ers. It's just Jets too. He's an impressive middle linebacker. This is a guy who's a big power hitting guy. He makes the big hits. And that just, I think, plays out really well for the way the Steelers play defense. Like, the way they play defense is hit him and hit him hard. That's just the Steeler way, honestly. And this guy perfectly fits that scheme fit. I think he will do very well in Pittsburgh. Now, is he going to be a starter? I don't know about that yet, obviously, just because, we got to see how it plays out. He definitely was not guaranteed a starting position to this point, as there's a lot of competition going on now with, Cole Holmgren. I think he's got the one star middle linebacker job pretty much got to him, because he's an impressive middle linebacker. I'm very excited to see him as a Steeler. But the second one, it's really up there with Ellington Roberts, and now, of course, obviously, Quan Alexander and Mark Robinson, pretty much all fine for. Then there's a couple other guys who are a little more wild cards, but guys like Tanner Moose, who also another guy added in free agency this year by the Steelers, who are in contention to get that spot as well by this point here. But yeah, I think it's a great signing. He's Quan Alexander as well is very good in getting out the run and stopping it. That's something he's very good at, and that's something the Steelers have been lacking for a long time. Guys like Cole Holmgren and now Quan Alexander are really going to help fix that, I think. Now, obviously, we'll have to see how it plays out on the field. But I do think these are guys that can stop the run, and that's some of the Steelers have had the Achilles heel in their defense for years. Now, am I going to say this is going to completely solve the issue? Probably not, but I think Quan Alexander was a good step in the right direction. The same with Cole Holmgren when he was brought in this offseason. They get steps in the right direction. In my mind, I think Omar Khan's done another spectacular job of another free agent signing. And that's a lot of time with the Steelers. And honestly, I will say this right now, they are going to probably be the biggest sleeper team in the NFL. I really do think they are going to be a very good team. And if I'm the Bengals, I am a little bit worried. Not because I think the Steelers are more talented. The Steelers right now are not more talented than the Bengals. That is, they are not anywhere close to the same talent level at this point. But if Joe Burrow's injury, of course, last week in practice, him possibly holding out for his contract, that could cause some issues here. And if Joe Burrow is out for a decent bit, I would not be surprised if the Steelers overjump the Bengals. Not because they're the better team, because I don't think the Steelers are the better team as right now. I think they still have some developing to do for their really 100% Super Bowl contenders. I think they're playoff contenders right now, but not Super Bowl just yet. Obviously, a lot of young pieces who have not even played in the playoffs. For instance, like Pickett's now playing the playoffs. Pickens has now played. Like, there's a lot of guys who haven't played in the playoffs on that team right now. But yeah, definitely, it makes things interesting now with Joe Burrow too. Like, he could be out for a couple weeks, not many weeks, but if he's out 2 or 3 weeks, that could completely change how the division plays out. So, a lot of stuff to watch in the AFC North. I think the AFC North is probably the best division in football this year. It is going to be the best. I think 3 out of the 4 teams make the playoffs in that division. And I think the odd man out's the Ravens. I just think they've lost a lot defensively on the defensive line. Their pass rush is just not going to be as good as it has been in the past. Because Calais Campbell is the ankle of that defense. He is now gone. And even more pieces of the secondary, other than Marlon Humphrey, like the safeties are really good, but the cornerbacks, other than Marlon Humphrey, I'm a little sketchy on now. And I just don't think they're the best. I just think they're the worst team right now. Like, they're a good team. They'll probably be like 8-9 or 9-8, but I don't think they're anything special, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's a lot of movement there. The next one I'm going to talk about here is this happened today. The Carolina Panthers signed another middle linebacker, Deion Jones, to a 1-year contract. This is a good move for Carolina. I like it. This is a very great middle linebacker. I think one of the best in the game for the last 5 years. Obviously, for age now he is declining, but I still think he's a very efficient and a great middle linebacker to have. I think he will help out Carolina in a big way because they've been missing a lot of middle linebacker talent since, of course, Luke Kuechly retired like 5-6 years ago now. But, they definitely have been missing that, and they're getting that right now here, pretty much. So that's going to be very exciting for them here, getting someone who actually is pretty good middle linebacker. Is this really going to help out their playoff chances? No, they're not making the playoffs or anything like that. But it is going to definitely help out with that defense and maybe, honestly, get these guys to a better position where they can be started to make the moves to be in a future playoff team. But I think it definitely helps out the defense, and it's a good pickup by Carolina. But next up here, we're going to be talking about some of the new, because the NFL has been having a lot of new jerseys and helmets. So we're going to talk about some of them, not all of them, just because there's so many of them, and I want to get into the main topic of today's video, which is, of course, if you've seen the title already, you know what it's going to be. But I do want to talk about a couple of these first here, so I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you guys some of the jerseys. So first off, here is Tampa Bay's jerseys. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see them. Because I couldn't get, clean pixels for some reason. I don't know why, but I can only get the video. But you can see the jerseys here. They went back to the creamsicles, and they've been a very good jersey. I definitely really like them. I think they worked out very well. And overall, this is good ones to have. I think that's for us. A retro jersey we haven't had in a while that's really popular. They brought it back, and it looks great. I think they adapted it very well, and Nike did a good job designing these things to look exactly like how you'd want them to look to this point. So I'm a big fan of the creamsicle jerseys. I think they look good as an alternate, obviously. I like the home and aways a lot better, in the color scheme they have now, but I think these work out great, and they look very nice in my mind now. But next up here, I think this is Sharon, right? Nope, I don't know. Now we're gonna talk about the Minnesota Vikings one here, so I gotta do the whole sharing thing again here. Yep, there we go. Now it's showing. But here you can see they went back to a reverse. Now I keep saying reverse retro like it's out. This retro jersey, for the Vikings. I think it's based off their 60s and 70s jerseys, and these look really nice. The thing I would say though is, as nice as they are, they're not the nicest ones out there. I definitely like the look of it. I think it looks clean. The thing is, though, I would say it looks a lot like a pup when Gold was now the Steelers jerseys, pretty much. Like, it looks exactly like the Steelers retro jerseys that they wear as well. But overall, nice stories for Minnesota. I think they do look good. And now my final one here I am going to talk about because these ones are great and they just got revealed. Like I said, it got leaked and then revealed yesterday. But it's the Philadelphia Eagles Kelly Green jerseys here. So pretty much here they are. They brought back the Kelly Green. We knew they were going to do that early on the year, and they did finally bring them back. And these look phenomenal. I think these are probably the best throwbacks in the NFL right now. It's them or the Seahawks ones, which I didn't pull up the photos, so I'm not going to talk about them, but they are also spectacular as well. These are spectacular jerseys. I think they look great, and just the detail and everything really stands out. And another great job by Nike adapting these retro designs and making them in a somewhat modern way that we can enjoy them today. But yeah, other teams that have these as well, or New York Jets, they have nice ones. They're like a green, white Steelers frozen too. A lot of them look like the Steelers, retro Steelers jerseys, in different colors. Seahawks one, it's spectacular. I think one of the best out there. Looks awesome. I'm trying to think who else here. Colts have a. This isn't a retro, but this is like an alternate jersey. It's pretty interesting. It's like a blue, like texture color. It looks pretty cool in my mind. A lot of people hate it. I think it's cool, but to each its own, honestly. And yeah, there's a couple other ones too, but we're not going to get into it. As now we are getting to the main point of conversation for today's video, and that is what has been brewing within the last 3 to 4 weeks, and that is the conflict between the NFL general managers and owners, and pretty much the whole league's running backs, as they have been getting pretty much disrespected contract wise, and they have been, and it's really exploded within the last 2 weeks now. So pretty much here, if you haven't heard, this started off due to multiple franchise tags on high name running backs from the Giants, Saquon Barkley, the big offensive piece they have there. Raiders Josh Jacobs as well, another I led the league in rushing yards last year. And then Tony Pollard from the Cowboys. All three were franchise tagged, and all three were refusing to sign the franchise tag. And the deadline was, of course, I think last week was, and all three did not sign the tag and were holding out just due because they were not getting what they considered to be fair offers for their talents. And pretty much here, of course, now Josh Jacobs is holding out and is not going to training camp at all this year. And that's a massive loss for the Raiders as he is their best offensive player. And they're not a very good team, but he does actually keep them in it. So that's a whole disaster there. And I have a feeling he wanted out last year. He still wants out, and it's not looking good for them. But yeah. So that one here is going to be very interesting because that is a massive piece for the Raiders. And honestly, he is not that expendable. I know they kind of want to make it feel like, oh, running backs are expendable. Yeah. But not for the Raiders because he literally is your offense. Like, Davante Adams is good, but do you really expect Jimmy Garoppolo to actually do something with him? No. Jimmy Garoppolo is the great value version of a quarterback. He is not that good at all. And the thing is here, too, with the Raiders, like, their offense just is not good enough to rely fully on the pass. Like, you need the good running game to actually do something. Like, Josh Jacobs is the reason why you even had a record that you did last year. Like, I'm be honest with you, the Raiders should have had a way worse record last year without, of course, Josh Jacobs. If you don't have him, they're probably one of the worst teams in the league. I'm sorry, but defensively, other than Max Crosby, they're not very good. Offensively, Davante Adams is good, but other than that, Hunter Renfrow was not himself last year. Just didn't look that good, and was on and off the IR. And the whole offensive line is a complete disaster. Like seriously, like it's pretty much a sack machine. Like it nearly killed Derek Carr last year, and they've been doing that for like the last 3 years now. But a whole bunch of stuff there, and then just it's kind of like if you're the Raiders, you need to just give him a contract. Like I'm dead serious. Like if he's holding out, they are gonna get hurt massive. Like any shot of playoffs, they're gone if you don't have Josh Jacobs. I'm sorry, but I think the Raiders live and die by Josh Jacobs, and if you're not gonna pay him what he deserves, then the Raiders are gonna have a top 5 pick again this year. yeah, that it's just the whole thing that they screwed up with Dale Carr this offseason. Should have kept him. I think Josh McDaniels should have been the one to go because he is an awful head coach. They're not though, and now you won't pay Josh Jacobs. Like this is just it's just been with the Raiders like last 10 years, all and over again. Of course, first there was Amari Cooper. Actually, no, first there was Khalil Mack, who had traded to the Bears. Then it was Amari Cooper. Then I'm trying to. There's other ones too, but there's so many of them. Then Derek Carr was the latest one. Now you got Josh Jacobs too. Like all these guys just keep leaving the Raiders, and it's a whole dysfunctional organization. So the whole thing of not paying Josh Jacobs for them is actually ludicrous. Just because their offense literally depends on the guy, and he won't pay him. Like it's just there's just not a lot of reasons for at least the Raiders. There's other teams that do have the reasons to do it, but for the Raiders, there was no reason why you don't pay the guy. But on the Tony Pollard situation now, that one does make a little more sense. Obviously, he was kept to be because they felt he was better than Ezekiel Elliott, who is now still a free agent. But definitely, of course, with that one, it's a little more different because their offense is more of a passing offense, and they do actually have the weapons to be a passing offense with, of course, C.D. Lamb and now newly acquired Brandin Cooks, and Dak Prescott is a very good passing quarterback. Now he of course had the interception issue last year, but that was I think just a 1 year thing. I think he definitely is gonna cut him down pretty good this year. I feel just because he normally is not that inaccurate. I just think he had an off year last year, especially losing his best receiver on Amari Cooper. But definitely I think a very good team, and I think that's a passing offense. Like the thing of Tony Pollard is the Cowboys aren't gonna die without him. Like they have other offensive pieces that will actually get him. Like this one makes a little sense. I think you still should have paid him a little bit. Like, I think you should have given him a contract that was reasonable. Obviously, of course, they Cowboys didn't. But where they put the money that they probably should have given Pollard elsewhere was, in my mind, honestly better. Like paying Trayvon Diggs, he's a spectacular piece, and he's one of the core leaders of your defense next to Micah Parsons. He should be getting paid the big bucks, and you pay him the big bucks. He is a very talented cornerback, and you don't get cornerbacks like him that often, let alone anyone in the secondary like him that often. So obviously you have to pay him, and they made the right decision there. But the other thing with the Cowboys, I would say here is they were looking at Deuce Vaughn, who has been lighting it up in training camp, and he lit up the college world too. Like he was a very good college running back. Reason he even fell like the sixth round just due to his size concerns. But the Cowboys, they do know about small running backs of Emmitt Smith. I think he was 5'9". Of course, a little taller than Deuce Vaughn, obviously, but just because he's small doesn't mean he's not going to be a good running back. And I think this Deuce Vaughn guy has a lot of potential, honestly. So if I'm the Cowboys, like on it, I would pay Pollard like a 2-3 year deal. But seriously, like, if Deuce Vaughn is what he looks like, there was no reason to really pay Pollard in the first place in my mind. Obviously, he's a rookie. You got to weigh on it. I think you still have to sign Pollard. But yeah, definitely that one makes a little more sense. And then the third one here, the Francis tax, that's completely ridiculous. The Giants and Saquon Barkley. Yeah, so they paid Daniel Jones the big bucks, which was a little like, oh, okay, he's kind of awful. But, well, he's not awful, but like, he's just middle of the road. Like, he's the most mediocre quarterback in the NFL, I feel like. Like, he has completely stolen that title from Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's just, But pretty much, the main leader on offense who led them to be one of the best offenses in the league last year, which was shocking to everyone, was Saquon Barkley, with spectacular on the field. Like, not even just like rushing, he was great in the passing game too. Like, he was really doing it all for that team. And I feel as if he should have easily been getting paid the big bucks. Coming out of college, the dude's a generational talent. He showed it at Penn State, and his first NFL, he clearly showed it. And I know he had the ACL tears and the injuries, but last year he had to revive one, got back completely to form, and was the guy they drafted. And there was no reason, I feel like, to not sign him. Like, he is the reason the offense is as good as it is. He is the main reason you got back to the playoffs. Him and Vrabel are the reasons you're there. You got there in the first place. They're the reasons you're in the position you're in right now. And the Giants, honestly, are in a very good position. They have a lot of interesting pieces now, especially offensively. They have gone significantly better in my mind. Darren Waller, the tight end, they got through a trade with the Raiders. He's going to be a great piece for Daniel Jones to pass to. They've been, like, Bellinger was good last year, but they're going to get an even better tight end this year. And they're going to have two very good tight ends, I feel like. But also, of course, drafting Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee in the third round. He is going to be a spectacular wide receiver. I don't know how he went to the third round. Honestly, I have him as a late first round pick, early second round. But he somehow got all the way to the third round, and they picked him up, and it was a good trade for them. And they have a lot of interesting pieces on an offense now that I know Saquon maybe it's not as big of a deal now because there's other pieces Daniel Jones can rely on. But pretty much last year, Saquon is who we relied on. So there's no reason you don't give him the massive contract. Now, of course, obviously this did get resolved as Saquon did get a 1-year contract extension, which is a little more than the franchise tag money-wise, but still not as high as you want. But it's just ridiculous, obviously. You're not going to pay your best offensive player the big bucks. Like, no matter what position the guy is, if he's your best offensive player and he gives you the best chance to win, you pay him what he deserves, in my mind. That's just how it goes. You know what I mean? Like, say, for instance, like, let's say Antonio Brown. Look how spectacular, insane player, off a human being, but spectacular player. He is insane. Like, here's what you do. Are you going to not pay him and let him leave and have your offense completely fall apart? Or B, are you going to pay him and let your offense continue to be great? You go option B and you pay the guy. Like, you just don't, it's just not a good idea. Like, it's only going to hurt you if you don't pay the guy. It's only going to backfire if you don't pay him. At least in my mind, that's how it works. And the Giants find out they're in an issue where they got to pay the guy because if they don't, the offense will get worse. Now, I do think, obviously, that they are a lot better now. If Saquon now actually they're doing stuff, they're going to be a lot better. But and they're in a better position than they were last week when this all started. But still, it's obviously a lot of work they need to do, and they got to get back into the groove here. But pretty much here, just more. I just give like the idea of what exactly is going on in the NFL here. Pretty much all the running. So of course, obviously, these guys are the main catalyst for this issue not happening, and pretty much I'm going to just explain the GM side here first, but I think the GM side pretty much says running backs is when you pay a running back, it just seems like statistically is showing right now that it completely backfires. Examples of this is Ezekiel Elliott got paid, fell off a cliff completely. Todd Gurley got paid the big bucks, injuries, and his career got completely ruined. And then Le'Veon Bell held out, left the Steelers, went to the Jets, got paid the big bucks. By his second year, he's cut, and now he's completely out of the NFL. One of the best running backs of the 2010s, too. Like, you see these teams paying the running backs, and then they completely fall off. And honestly, that's what the GMs are thinking, why would I give this guy the big bucks if he's just going to fall off and it's going to hurt my team in the long term? But honestly, and like I would say too, like running backs out of all the NFL players, they have the shortest lifespan when it comes to career time. Like they normally will retire in their 30s, like in their early 30s, like 31, 32. A lot of them seem to get retired. Sometimes they get up to like 36, but like that's normally like the max they even ever get to as a running back. It's because it's just a grueling position. It just really does wear down on the players. The fades obviously they get slower and it's just not as good as it was. But the thing is here, and I'm going to talk more on the running back side, is obviously if you're really that talented, you should be getting paid. You see the wide receivers get the big bucks, you see the quarterbacks get the big bucks, and you see your fellow ones before you, running back wise, get paid. And now you're not getting paid, and it's like, what happened here? And the two things that I think is the main reason is one, obviously the lifespan of the career for the running backs. I think it's just a lot shorter, and there's not a reason to really, pay for them if you can just get a replacement that's just as good. In my mind, like that is the one reason I think GMs are not paying the running backs. The second reason here is that pretty much if the running back position in the current NFL offensively it is a pass forced league now. It is not run the ball, pound them inside, get the extra yards and stuff. It's not that league anymore. It's a passing game. Like the Chiefs have completely changed the system with Pat Mahomes and all that stuff, like complete ail passing it, and other teams have followed. Obviously, look at the Eagles. They had a spectacular running back in Miles Sanders. He barely got any carries half the time last year just because they just airmailed it because they had a great quarterback, Jalen Hurts. They can airmail it. Look at the Bills. Their offense. Now, first off, they don't have any good running backs to begin with, but they just pass the ball. You know what I mean? Like, they're just a pass first team. Another example is the Browns. They probably have the best running back in the NFL in Nick Chubb. I honestly think he is the best running back out there. Yet they don't give him enough carries. They just pass the first. That will pass first team once again. If they pass the ball. Of course, with them, with Deshaun Watson, how bad he was last year, I kind of feel like you should be giving Chubb the ball a lot more than passing it, and probably not pass it as much because Deshaun Watson is, he's not the same Deshaun Watson. He's not as good. But, like all these teams are going to more pass-first offenses. And linebacker position, like, it hasn't really evolved as much. There are certain players that have evolved in the position, and I think that's where the position will be moving forward. I think once more of running backs adapt this way of playing the game, I think they'll start to get paid a little more, and maybe even their careers will expand. But guys like McCaffrey, guys like Austin Ekeler, not only are they efficient in the run game, but they play an active role in the pass game. And NFL teams right now, running back wise, that is what they want. They want a guy who can, run efficiently, obviously, but they also want a guy who can be effective in the pass game. That's why Chris McCaffrey got paid. That's why he's considered a spectacular running back. That's why he's considered highly valuable. And Austin Ekeler, honestly, not as valuable, but like, if you watch and look him on the field, that's what you get. You know what I mean? That is what you're getting a player just like that. And that's, like, you want, like, a new, of course, the rookie running back that came in the league this year, and Bijan Robinson and Jamil Gibbs, both drafted to Robinson, of course, Atlanta, and then Gibbs, Detroit, is why they were drafted so high is because not only are they great in the run game, but they have something that teams find even more valuable, which is they're effective in the pass game. Bijan Robinson for Atlanta right now, not only has been actually just a normal running back, but he has also been playing at wide receiver and all positions like that. Because they find that valuable. You could also move them to tight end too. There are some big running backs. They're not as fast as the wide receivers, but like, they could play tight end, honestly. That is what they are looking for right now in NFL running backs. Same with Gibbs here. If you look at what they've been doing at Detroit's training camp, he's been all over the place. He's been a running back and he's been a wide receiver a lot. And honestly, like, they've won, like, of course, they got David Montgomery in the offseason as well. So that was a good move for them. Of course, losing Jamal Williams wasn't the best, but they didn't make up for it. But, like, they're having them both play. At the same time, like, it's the versatility is what the NFL teams want. And a lot of the running backs right now, they just lack it. They don't have it. There's no reason to pay them, I think, in the GM's mind, if they can't do the pass game as well. Now, of course, there was a lot of new ones coming in that can do that, and I think that is where the market will change back to them being more valuable, but at this time, really, it's not. And I think that's just because the value and the way the running back's being played now is just completely different than what it was, like, even 5 years ago. Honestly, it seemed different than it was 3 years ago. Like, when Chris McCaffrey first came in the league, like, not many running backs were doing that. Like, we weren't really seeing that often. And that became valuable. NFL teams saw it as, that's what the future of the running backs should be to us. That's what we want. And we've seen a lot of that recently now. Travis Etienne as well, for Jags. He does a lot of that too right now. Like, his role really has turned into that. And that's what he was drafted to be, like a wide receiver running back hybrid. That's why they drafted him to help out Trevor Lawrence in 2021. That's why he got drafted there. That was their intention full on. Now, whoever here, and I'm just going to take a little, because I'm going to have one more thing to talk about Jonathan Taylor at the end of this, but I will say this here. My thought on how this is really going to play out, because I think this plays out a little differently than what the NFL GMs are going to expect. my feeling is the pass game is going to catch like a wildfire, and teams' defenses will completely prepare for the pass forced offense. Like you can see it already, like teams getting cornerbacks like hot fire. Of course, last in the draft this year, like there was so many cornerbacks taken in the first round. It's because of all these pass forced offenses. However, what I feel is going to happen here is not only going to see a lot more of these hybrid running backs, but there are going to be certain teams that realize, hey, these defenses are pretty much just preparing for the pass. They're not really caring if we're going to run the football. And even if we do, what are they going to do? They're not going to really do much to stop us. And they're going to use the running backs they have a lot more efficiently than they have. I think one team that is going to start that trend, and I expect to see this completely this year. I expect it to be kind of a palm forward team just because they're not going to expect it as much. Is the Steelers? I think that is where the roots of course obviously is. If you know the Steelers, it's in the running game. It's physical. That's how they like to play offense. They don't really like the pass first team, and when they did that, like with the Killer Bees, like they didn't really win much outside the playoffs. Like they didn't get much in the playoffs really win wise, and fans just didn't feel like that was the Steeler way to play. Like it was just very different from what they had in the past. But in 2021, obviously, they decided to commit more to the run by drafting Najee Harris in the first round. And, why they drafted him, obviously, is it's not like the other running backs they drafted more just because we want a unicorn in that position. They want to draft someone that could beat the crap out of middle linebackers and stuff. We just go in there and just pound away. And that, honestly, is where I think offense, running back-wise, will go for a little bit. I think it's going to switch from a more pass-first to more of a running game because teams are going to realize these defenses, they're going for the pass. That's what they want to take the ball away. They want to intercept the ball. That's what they want to do. And, of course, obviously, they are going to go that way. And teams realize that and was, if they're going to do that, why would I pass the ball? I have a perfectly capable running back right here. Like, for the Steelers say, hey, I got Najee Harris right here. He's a spectacular running back. Why don't I just use him and just pound down the middle? They're not planning on it. They're not going to stop us. And when they do adjust, I'll just go to the passing attack. Because I got a great passing offense too. And I think that's where offense goes is defenses are going to think, let's go for the pass. And then these teams who are smart and have running backs that can actually, pound the zone because there's not many of those left, they're going to be like, you know what? If you're going for the pass, I'll just run it, and I'll completely shred the defense. And then when you switch, I'll shred you on the air. Like, it's kind of like, I think that's how offense is going to go now, just because everyone's going to this completely pass-forced way, and as efficient and statistically good as it is, it's going to leave a massive gap and massive opportunity hole for teams to take advantage of defenses by running the football, because they're just not going to prepare as well. Like, we can already see like middle linebackers just in general, it's not as good as they were defending one 5 years ago. Like it's a lot easier, I think, to run the football now, just because they're focusing on the pass and taking away the football. And I think that is we're really going to see. And I think it starts this year with some teams being smart about it. And I think the Steelers are one of those teams because when you think of the Steelers right now, they have some definite weapons at the wide receiver position. I think all the teams are not going to be as concerned for the run with teams like the Steelers just because they can see the offensive weapons, tight end and wide receiver, and they'll view that as the main threat. They won't expect the running, since, of course, Pickett now, of course, is not a rookie quarterback. He's a second-year guy. He's had a lap around. He knows what he's dealing with. Like, they can expect him to throw the ball down the field, and he is definitely going to do that. And, of course, there's other teams as well. I'm missing the Steelers as the main example here. But they're going to do that as well. And they're going to expect for that. They're not going to expect for the one game. It's just not. Because it just has kind of, what they feel like, has served its time. But now I think we're going to see that really backfire on teams here. So a lot of people say like the running back market is dead and stuff. Right now it's having a real downgrade, I'll say that. But I think we're going to see a little bit of an uptick just because teams are going to realize certain things and be like, hey, just go for the pass. I'll just run the football. And I think we're going to see a start of that this year with certain teams. And I think teams that go pass first this year are not going to be as do as well just because the defenses are now preparing for that more. They were adapting to the way offense is being played, and now offense is going to have to once again change and get into a way that defenses can't stop it. And I think the way you do that is focus more on the one game. Of course, also I think the one game as well, what I'm describing as the future of the running back position, it's not going to be what we used to. It's not going to be all the pounding in the ground, getting the yards. Like that's going to be part of it for sure. That's going to be a big part of it. But the other part will be involving in the pass game. So like guys like McCaffrey, they're gonna flourish. I feel like a lot, and guys like Najee Harris too. Like the real power backs that can actually pass cats, like Bijan Robinson, Najee Harris, and stuff like that. They're gonna succeed massively. I feel like just because I think that's the way the game is changing right now. I think that is what we're gonna start seeing a lot of. It'll begin this year, and I think it will take storm just because the passing game, as much as it's taking the storm right now and as efficient as it looks, the defenses now have had time to prepare for all this. So many teams have switched to it. And you can see the defense is already transitioning to they're not really caring as much about the run as they are the pass because they're more scared of the pass. So they're going to, of course, get pieces and defend the pass. And that's just the focus of the whole NFL. And when you shift your focus from one thing to another thing, the one thing that you have the least focus about can become a very big gaping hole that teams can take advantage of. And I think that is what we're going to see happen in the NFL. I think this year is kind of the start of it. I don't see many teams doing it, but I think a couple will, and I think it'll grow more and more to the point where obviously we see this is kind of taken back and forth. Like I think it's gonna the way offense I feel like it's gonna go. It's kind of alternate back and forth between a couple years it's mainly passing, another couple years it's gonna be run first and then pass. Like I think it's gonna alternate and switch. I think a lot. I think that's what we're gonna see. But my last topic here for today's video, here obviously in course episode, is whole Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts situation. Now I'm gonna not talk that much about this because this episode's getting pretty long here, but mainly here, Jonathan Taylor wasn't get paid and was upset when Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, had some negative things to say about running backs. And he got mad, and now he's holding out of training camp and has requested a trade from the Colts. The Colts will not trade him because they don't think they'll be able to get enough from a trade that will give them enough value to replace him. And yet they won't pay Jonathan Taylor what he wants. Now, obviously, Leslie, Jonathan Taylor wants $16 million, which is a little absurd, and I don't think any team is going to pay that for him, especially after his season last year, we completely fell off and having a spectacular season the year before. However, I feel like both sides here have a little bit of right and a little bit of wrong. I think the Colts are right to not want to pay Jonathan Taylor $16 million. And I don't think Jonathan Taylor's also right in the fact that he does deserve to be paid, and he is a definite game changer for the Colts. And he doesn't want to get replaced. He wants to have a job. They both have, in a sense, right. However, the thing is, too, is, of course, obviously, now there's also some wrongs here. Like, Jonathan Taylor, obviously, here, he's not on his contract here. This is not the year for his contract, obviously. He should not be skipping out of training camp. I think he should be there when actually working because it's not a contract year for him. Why is he not working, in my mind? On the other end of the Colts here, they're now trying to put him on the IR for non-football related injury, so they can't pay him now as a backfire. It's this whole thing here, honestly. And I think both sides are wrong. And here's what I think. In my mind, what should happen. Now, is this what I think was going to happen? No, it's not what's going to happen. I feel like now Jim Irsay, they won't pay him, and he'll be stuck there for a year and a half more, and then he'll finally leave, and his career will probably get 2 more good years, and then he's done. Pretty much just because that's how running backs go. But what should happen is I think the coach should pay Jonathan Taylor. Now, should they pay him $16 million a year? No, he is not worth $16 million a year. It's absurd to pay a running back that much money. I'm sorry, but they shouldn't be getting paid that much. And Jonathan Taylor, it's great season he had the year before. He had a massive downgrade this last year, but there's no reason to justify even doing that. He needs to play back at that level he played at, not last year, but the year before, to even consider a $16 million contract. He's not worth that, and I don't think he's paid. I think Jonathan Taylor is overvaluing himself a lot. But I think a contract can save on like $10 million a year. Even 10's a little high. But I think 10 is reasonable if he goes back to his form. I think that's a reasonable contract to offer him, But I think that's what I think you do pay him because I think he's a crucial point of that offense. Now, if Anthony Richardson, now their quarterback, depending on how he does develop, because he is a very boom or bust prospect in my mind, and he probably should not be drafted fourth overall. But it definitely is interesting to see how that team changes because a lot could change there, and I do think we'll see a lot of things happen. This is very interesting, the Jonathan Taylor situation, and obviously we'll talk about a lot more in later videos as well in episodes because I feel like this is going to be something that drags on for a long time, and this episode's probably the first of many episodes where we have to talk a lot about the running backs and the whole market and everything. But yeah, I think definitely right now it's going to get pretty toxic between Irsay and Taylor. And Colts fans are going to be in for one because I don't think they can trade him. And they're not going to trade him. And I don't think he's going to play. And it's going to cause massive issues, I think, for the whole Colts team. However, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think it's going to really hurt the Colts if they don't sign him because just like Josh Jacobs, he is a big piece to that offense. Now, how does that offense change with a new quarterback? I don't know. We'll find out, obviously, when he starts playing. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting way, just like both teams will see, both sides see what happens in that scenario. But that's something obviously we'll be looking at very closely for the next months and stuff. As the NFL season, of course, starts uphill. But yeah, that pretty much does it for this video. If you guys liked it, please comment, like, and subscribe. And if you guys are listening on any of the podcast websites, Spotify, Apple, and all the other ones, thank you guys for listening in, and thank you guys for watching. Bye.